Commander Jin stood at the front observation window of the human flagship. The Obsidian Dawn. The ship drifted through the misty edge of a nebula, approaching the great structure that housed the Galactic Space Council. The station looked like a giant ring of metal and light, floating alone in the darkness. Its surface pulsed with strange colors, a sign of the many alien technologies woven into its design. Jin watched it grow larger and tried not to show any sign of worry. He knew humanity's arrival would draw every eye in the galaxy. Hana stood beside him, holding a small tablet as she read incoming reports. Her voice stayed calm and soft. She always spoke that way when she wanted Jin to stay relaxed. She told him that several alien factions had already sent warning messages. They wanted to make sure humanity understood that the Council held strict rules and that newcomers were expected to show humility. Jin listened, but kept his expression steady. Humans had prepared for this moment for decades, and they would not allow fear or pressure to ruin their first meeting. Behind them, the crew moved quickly, but quietly. Every member understood the importance of this day. Jin's ship was one of the first dark matter warships ever revealed to the galaxy. Until now, the technology had been humanity's greatest secret. The Council had only heard rumors, and many believed humans were exaggerating. Others assumed humanity was still too young to develop anything powerful. Jin knew that the truth would shock them, and maybe even frighten them. But there was no turning back. A soft alert sounded, and Hana reported that they were now crossing the Council's outer security zone. The alien ships guarding the station watched closely. Some scanned the Obsidian Dawn without permission, but the human vessel's dark matter shielding made the scans useless. To them, it must have looked like a cloud of distorted space instead of a normal ship. Hana noted the confusion in their messages. Jin allowed himself a small smile. Su, the main diplomat of the human delegation, entered the command deck. She was calm as always, with a gentle expression that helped reduce tension around her. She asked Jin if he was ready for what would happen next. Jin answered that he was, though he knew the Council would test them in many ways. Su shared that several Council members were already preparing speeches about human inexperience and the risk of letting a new species join. But she also said she believed in humanity's strength. The galaxy needed new energy, and humans had plenty. The Obsidian Dawn slowed as it reached the docking corridor. The station extended long metal arms that locked onto the ship with a deep echo that vibrated through every deck. Lights blinked across the corridor as it pressurized. Jin took a deep breath, straightened his uniform, and asked the team to follow. The doors opened, and a walkway illuminated before them. On both sides stood alien guards of many shapes and sizes. Some had metallic skin. Some had large eyes. Others had bodies that shimmered like water. All of them stared silently at the humans. Their expressions were difficult to read, but Jin sensed they were trying to measure how strong or weak humanity really was. As Jin, Hana, and the rest of the team walked forward, whispers passed among the guards. Many alien species had advanced starships, but none used dark matter the way humans did. The Obsidian Dawn's sudden appearance in Council space, without passing through standard warp routes, had already caused confusion. Jin kept walking without reacting. They entered the main Council chamber. It was enormous, with hundreds of platforms floating in a circle. Each platform held representatives from different species. Their chairs hovered in the air, arranged in a spiral pattern. A soft hum filled the chamber, like a slow heartbeat. When the humans stepped into the center, the hum quieted. All eyes turned toward them. Some aliens leaned forward with interest. Others watched with cold suspicion. A few whispered to their neighbors, clearly unconvinced that humans deserved a place among them. The Council speaker, a tall alien with skin that glowed faintly blue, addressed the room. The speaker said that humanity had developed quickly, faster than expected, But that speed alone did not prove wisdom. The galaxy had seen many young civilizations rise too fast and collapse even faster. The speaker asked why humanity believed it was ready to stand among the established powers. Sue stepped forward. She greeted the council respectfully and explained that humans did not come to boast or threaten. They came to share their knowledge, cooperate, and learn. But she also said humanity would not hide its achievements. Jin watched carefully as her words echoed across the chamber. A low murmur spread through the platforms. Several council members asked for proof of humanity's technological claims. Others suggested that humans had exaggerated their progress to gain attention. Hana looked at Jin. Jin gave a small nod. The chamber lights dimmed. A projection formed above the humans, showing the obsidian dawn and the fleet behind it. The image shifted, revealing how dark matter folded around the ships. There were gasps from many species as they watched the vessels appear and vanish in flashes of warped space. Then, in real time, the obsidian dawn demonstrated its power. Outside the station, the human ship activated its dark matter drive. The station trembled slightly as space itself bent around the vessel. For a moment, the ship faded into a black, starless shape, then returned a second later in the exact same spot. Silence filled the chamber. Jin saw shock in the eyes of almost every alien representative. Even the species known for advanced physics leaned back, unable to hide their surprise. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for. The moment when the galaxy realized humans were not a small, weak species desperate for approval. They were a rising force with technology that even the council had not mastered. But Jin did not smile or boast. He simply stood still, waiting. He knew that power without discipline only caused fear. Humanity wanted respect, not panic. The entire galaxy watched them now, and every action mattered. The speaker finally broke the silence. The voice trembled slightly as they acknowledged that the demonstration was impressive, far more than expected. The council would need time to review what they had seen. They invited the human delegation to stay on the station while discussions took place. As the humans left the chamber, Jin felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. The council had been shocked, maybe even frightened. But humanity had shown itself clearly. There was no turning back now. Every step forward would shape their future. Hana whispered that the council would not forget this day. Sue added that neither would. Humanity. Jin looked at the grand corridors of the alien station and imagined the new path opening before them. A path filled with danger, diplomacy, and discovery. A path that would decide humanity's place in the galaxy. And it had only just begun. Sue walked through the long hallway of the council station, her steps quiet against the smooth floor. The lights on the walls shifted in soft waves, glowing gently as she passed. She held a small device in her hand that displayed updates from the human ship, but she was not focused on the screen. Her mind was on the meeting that would begin soon. Several council members had asked to speak with the human delegation in private, and Sue knew these talks would be more difficult than the public gathering. Jin followed her with steady steps, his expression calm but firm. He never liked political games, but he understood that diplomacy was just as important as strength. Behind them, Hana and Yun checked their reports one last time. Hana reviewed messages from different factions, while Yun carried data recordings of their dark matter systems. They were ready, but they all felt the tension in the air. When they entered the meeting room, several alien representatives were already waiting. The room was large and circular, with a table that shifted its shape depending on who sat around it. Today, the table formed a ring, leaving the center empty. The aliens spoke quietly to each other, their voices blending into a soft hum. When the humans stepped inside, the room grew silent. One of the representatives, a tall alien with long silver markings on its face, motioned for them to sit. Sue took the seat closest to the center. Jin sat beside her, watching the room carefully. Hana and Yun sat opposite each other, ready to take notes. The silver-marked alien began speaking. It said that the demonstration of humanity's dark matter technology had caused significant concern within the Council. Many species feared that such power could disrupt the balance that had kept the galaxy peaceful for centuries. Another representative added that no new species had ever shown such rapid technological growth. They questioned how humanity had developed something so advanced without outside influence. Datsu listened patiently. She expected these questions. She explained that humanity had worked on dark matter research for many years, pushing their scientists in every direction possible. She said humans were curious by nature and often found solutions others thought impossible. Still, she made it clear that humans were not seeking control or dominance. They only wished to join the galaxy as equals. Some aliens accepted her words with quiet nods. Others leaned back, their eyes narrowing. One representative with a voice that sounded like a clicking pattern asked if humanity would allow the Council's science teams to examine the dark matter engines directly. Yun answered that sharing full access was impossible because the technology was still dangerous and unstable in inexperienced hands. Instead, humanity would offer limited demonstrations and scientific cooperation. This answer caused murmurs across the room. A few species seemed offended, acting as if humans had insulted their intelligence. Su quickly stepped in, explaining that the restriction was not about superiority, but safety. Dark matter reactors required extreme precision. Even one mistake could destroy an entire facility. The clicking-voiced alien replied sharply, suggesting that this explanation might be a convenient excuse to hide something. Jin finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. He said humanity had no reason to deceive anyone. If they wanted to conquer the galaxy, they would not be here trying to negotiate peacefully. They would not be sitting at a table. They would be commanding fleets. His tone was not threatening, but the meaning was clear. The room fell silent again. Datsu gave Jin a small glance. She understood why he spoke, but she also wanted to make sure the Council did not misunderstand. She explained gently that humans valued diplomacy and cooperation. Jin's point was only that humanity's actions proved their intentions. If they wanted war, they would not be offering peace. The tension slowly eased. Several representatives exchanged thoughtful looks. A small alien with soft blue skin finally spoke, saying that humanity's approach showed honesty. They appreciated that humans did not pretend to be weak or timid. Many species respected strength paired with restraint. As the discussion continued, Hannah monitored the room's reactions. She could tell which factions felt threatened and which were curious. Her device displayed subtle shifts in their body language and speech tone. She whispered updates to Su, helping her respond more effectively. Yun finally had the chance to present his data. He projected several holograms above the table, showing energy readings, engine diagrams, and safety protocols. The aliens leaned forward, fascinated by the strange patterns created by dark matter flow. Some asked technical questions, and Yun answered patiently. It became clear that many species had theories about dark matter, but none had managed to turn those theories into working machines. For the first time since the humans entered, the room felt less hostile. Curiosity grew stronger than suspicion, but it did not last. A message alert flashed on Hana's tablet. She read it quickly, and her expression tightened. She whispered to Jin that something unusual was happening outside the Council station. Several unidentified ships were approaching, using stealth fields that did not match any known faction. Jin's eyes narrowed. He knew this was not a coincidence. Someone was testing humanity, or trying to cause trouble. He told Su quietly, and she continued the conversation without revealing anything to the aliens. Jin sent a silent signal to the Obsidian Dawn. Dao, the ship's surveillance expert, responded instantly. He reported that the unknown ships were circling the station, keeping a careful distance, but clearly preparing for something. Their stealth signatures suggested they belonged to a rogue faction within the council, one that often acted without permission. Jin stayed silent, but his mind moved quickly. He needed to decide whether to intervene, confront the aliens directly, or wait for more information. Meanwhile, the discussion in the room continued. The silver-marked representative asked Sue if humanity intended to share dark matter engines with allied species in the future. Sue answered that cooperation was possible, but only after strong trust was established. This answer seemed to calm some of the more reasonable members. Then the doors opened. A guard entered hurriedly and whispered something into the ear of one of the alien representatives. The representative's expression changed sharply. They stood and announced that unknown ships were moving near the station, and that the situation must be investigated. Immediately, every alien in the room turned toward the humans. The clicking-voiced alien accused them of bringing hidden warships or provoking a conflict. Jin stood up slowly, looking directly at them. He said that humanity had nothing to do with the unidentified vessels. He offered to assist in identifying them if the council allowed. The room buzzed with uncertainty. Finally, the silver-marked representative agreed to let the humans help. They told Jin to send information from his ship, but warned him not to take any action without council approval. Jin nodded. He contacted the Obsidian Dawn again. Gal transmitted scans of the rogue ships, showing they were using outdated council stealth tech evidence of internal corruption. Jin shared this with the council members. Shock spread across the room. Several representatives realized what it meant. Someone inside the council had planned to create trouble and blame it on humanity. The silver-marked alien apologized to Sue for the earlier accusations. Sue accepted calmly, though she knew the danger was far from over. The meeting ended shortly after, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Suspicion still lingered, but many now saw that humans were being targeted unfairly. Some even seemed embarrassed. As the humans left the room, Jin felt the tension sharpen rather than fade. They had exposed a plot, and plots never ended cleanly. Someone out there wanted to push humanity into conflict. Hana walked beside him and whispered that the council was now divided. Some feared humanity less, while others feared them more. Sue sighed softly. She said this was only the beginning. They had proven their honesty, but now they had to prove their strength without starting a war. Jin looked at the glowing corridors ahead. The galaxy was watching, waiting, judging. Human steps echoed through the hall, steady and calm. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Gal stood at his console aboard the Obsidian Dawn, his eyes fixed on the shifting patterns displayed on his screen. The rogue ships had moved closer to the station. Their stealth fields were unstable, flickering at the edges like shadows in a strong wind. He tightened his jaw as he watched them. Whoever controlled those ships was not only reckless, but bold enough to approach the council station without fear of consequences. Jin's voice came through the comm channel, calm but direct. Gal reported the rogue movements immediately. He explained how the ships were trying to stay hidden while circling into what looked like attack positions. Jin asked if the station's sensors had detected them yet. Gal answered that the station was only seeing fragments enough to suspect danger, but not enough to act. Jin ended the call quickly. He knew the situation could collapse into chaos if anyone made the wrong move. He left the council guest area and walked quickly down the hall, Sue, Hana, and Yun following close behind. Sue whispered that if the rogue ships attacked, the council might blame humanity, no matter what evidence they had. Hana added that fear could make even friendly factions turn against them. Yun checked his device, already preparing energy data in case they were asked to explain human systems again. The group reached a small observation chamber reserved for temporary delegations. The wide transparent wall showed part of the station exterior. Lights flashed across nearby docking platforms as security teams prepared for possible conflict. The station's defense turrets rotated into position. Though they did not activate fully, Sue watched the scene with a sinking feeling. She knew that if a battle broke out here, the political damage would be worse than the physical damage. Humanity's image would crumble. Peace would be replaced with suspicion. Jin contacted Dal again and asked for a full assessment. Dal zoomed in on the rogue fleet. There were 7 ships, all shaped like curved blades of metal, built for speed and stealth. They carried outdated Council tech, but had modifications that made them more dangerous. Their weapon systems were primed, but not powered. They looked like a group waiting for a signal. Dal also detected coded transmissions. Someone on the station was guiding them. Jin's face tightened. He understood now. This was a trap. The rogue faction wanted to push humanity into a defensive action. If humans fired first, even in self-defense, they would become the villains. The Council would turn against them. Sue touched Jin's arm lightly, telling him they needed a strategic solution. Hana said quietly that the longer they waited, the more dangerous the rogue ships would become. Yun suggested using a non-lethal demonstration of power. Jin nodded slowly. They needed to disable the rogue ships without harming anyone and without firing a real weapon. There was only one way to do that. He contacted the Obsidian Dawn again and gave an order. Dal relayed it to the ship's captain, who activated the dark matter field projectors. The ship moved slowly away from the station, gliding into open space. The rogue ships noticed and shifted positions, following silently. The dark matter systems flared to life. A ripple of black energy expanded outward from the Obsidian Dawn, spreading like a thin fog. To the naked eye, it looked almost harmless, but its effect was powerful. The dark matter field distorted the local space around it. Any ship that used old stealth tech or unstable cloaking devices would be exposed instantly. One by one, the rogue ships flickered out of stealth. Their cloaks failed completely, revealing their true shapes. Gasps filled the Council station as the ships became visible on the main screens. Jin watched the reaction from the observation chamber. Aliens across the station stared at the sudden appearance of the rogue fleet. Some shouted orders, others panicked, and many looked directly at the humans. The silver-marked representative from earlier arrived at the chamber, breathless. They demanded to know what was happening. Sue explained calmly that the humans had used a non-aggressive scanning field to reveal hidden ships. She emphasized that no weapons were used. The representatives studied the information carefully. Their expression shifted from suspicion to shock. They realized the rogue ships were using Council technology from a restricted program that should have been dismantled long ago. Before they could speak, a warning alarm echoed through the station. The rogue ships began charging their engines. They were preparing to fire. Dal sent new updates. He said the ships had activated attack protocols targeting the station. The rogue faction was desperate now that they had been exposed. They were willing to cause real destruction to distract from their failure. Jin moved quickly. He ordered the Obsidian Dawn to begin the next step. The ship's engines glowed with a deep blue light. Dark matter flowed through the system, wrapping the vessel in a shifting field. The ship moved faster than any Council vessel could track. It appeared beside the rogue ships in an instant. Jin told Dal to initiate the maneuver. Dal activated the dark matter displacement pulse. A silent burst of compressed space expanded around the human ship. It washed over the rogue vessels like a wave. Their engines sputtered. Their weapons shut down. Their power systems flickered and died. The ships drifted helplessly, completely disabled. There was no explosion, no damage, no casualties. Just silence. The Council chamber broadcast filled with stunned whispers. Representatives stared at the display in disbelief. They had never seen technology capable of disabling multiple ships so precisely without harming them. The silver-marked representative turned to Jin, their voice trembling. They asked how humanity had done this. Jin simply explained that dark matter allowed for gentle, controlled manipulation of energy systems. The goal was not destruction, but prevention. The representative looked overwhelmed. Security teams moved to capture the rogue ships. The council began demanding answers from every faction involved. Rumors spread rapidly through the station. Some species were amazed by humanity's restraint. Others were terrified by their ability to neutralize threats so easily. Sue knew they needed to act quickly to shape the narrative. She met with representatives from different factions, assuring them that humanity did not seek dominance. She explained that the dark matter pulse was a defensive tool, not a weapon. Yun demonstrated the science behind it, showing how the pulse prevented power surges and weapon activation. His calm explanation soothed many of the more nervous representatives. Hana moved through the station quietly, gathering information about the rogue faction. She learned that a small group of council members feared humanity's rising influence. They believed humans threatened the old order. They thought provoking a conflict would weaken humanity's standing. But now the plan had failed. Jin finally returned to the human quarters. He felt exhaustion weigh on him, but he stayed focused. Sue joined him, sitting beside him with a tired sigh. She said the council was still arguing, but many now realized humans had shown great restraint. Jin nodded. He knew the day had changed everything. The council had witnessed humanity's real power, controlled and measured. They saw that humans could disable fleets without harming anyone. They saw that humans acted calmly, even under threat. The galaxy had expected aggression. Instead, they saw discipline. Later, Dal sent a final report confirming all rogue ships were secure. Hana reported that several factions wanted to meet with humanity privately. Some wanted to offer alliances. Others wanted to learn about dark matter technology. Jin closed his eyes for a moment, letting the silence settle. The warships had spoken for humanity, but now diplomacy would have to finish the work. The day had been long, but it was far from over. The galaxy was changing. The council was changing. And humanity stood at the center of it. What happened next would shape the future. The council station felt different after the rogue ships were captured. The air seemed heavier, as if every corridor carried echoes of arguments and whispers. Representatives from many factions rushed through the halls, speaking in low tones, trying to understand the truth behind the attack. Some searched for answers. Others searched for excuses. A few searched for someone to blame. Jin walked through one of the busy halls with Sue, Hana, and Yun. Their steps were steady, but all of them knew the pressure around them was rising. The council had seen humanity's strength, and now they were deciding what to do with that knowledge. Sue held a small tablet filled with messages from various factions. Some were polite requests for meetings. Others were accusations disguised as questions. And a few were honest attempts at diplomacy. She sighed softly, saying that the council had split into 3 groups: those who feared humanity, those who respected humanity, and those who wanted something from humanity. Hana nodded quietly, explaining that the frightened factions were meeting in secret. They feared humanity would upset the power balance. She said one message warned of a possible vote to restrict human movement in council space. Sue expected such an attempt, but hoped logic would win. Yun carried a case filled with technical samples. He said some representatives wanted him to present more details about dark matter engines. But he also worried that sharing too much would create new problems. Some factions might use the knowledge for dangerous experiments. Before Jin could answer, the silver-marked representative from earlier approached them. Their expression was serious, but not hostile. They gestured for the humans to follow. The council had called for a private session. Humanity was invited. Jin exchanged looks with his team. They understood this meeting would decide much of their future. They followed the representative down a narrow walkway, through a set of security doors, and into a small circular chamber. Inside, 12 council members waited. They were the core of the leadership, chosen for their influence and experience. The chamber was dim, with soft lights glowing along the walls. The table in the center was shaped like a smooth stone, with shifting symbols across its surface. When the humans entered, the council members fell silent. The speaker, a tall figure with calm blue-light skin, addressed them. Their voice was steady, but carried a hint of tension. They said the council had reviewed the evidence of the rogue attack. The data clearly showed that the attacking ships came from a restricted program secretly supported by a few corrupt members of the council. Several members glanced at each other. Shame and anger flickered across their faces. The speaker continued, explaining that the council had failed to notice the corruption and now risked losing the trust of many young species. They said some factions believed humanity had been targeted because their sudden rise caused fear. The speaker apologized formally on behalf of the council. Sue bowed her head, accepting the apology with calm dignity. She said humanity understood fear. Humans had feared many things in their own history, but fear was not an excuse for violence. It was something to be faced, not used. The council members listened. Sue's voice was gentle but firm, and her words settled over the room like a calm breeze. One member with dark, smooth skin spoke next. They said the council wanted to know what humanity planned to do now. Would humans continue to develop dark matter weapons? Would they use their power to pressure or intimidate weaker species? Would they become another galactic threat? Jin stepped forward, his tone steady. He explained that humanity did not seek to control anyone. The dark matter warships were not made for conquest, but for protection. Humanity had learned the hard way that power without responsibility was dangerous. They wanted cooperation, not dominance. Another council member asked how humanity intended to prove that. Words were easy. Actions were harder. Hana stepped closer to the table. She presented a short report showing humanity's long-term plan. It explained how humans hope to build peaceful connections, share scientific discoveries, and help stabilize small frontier regions that lacked resources. She kept the explanation simple, focusing on honesty. The report ended with a proposal. Humanity would allow limited, supervised access to dark matter research for allied factions, and only after strict safety agreements. The chamber became quiet again. Many council members looked surprised. Some even looked relieved. The offer was generous, but still cautious. It showed trust, but not foolish trust. Then Yun stepped forward to explain the stabilizing effects of dark matter fields. He projected holograms showing how dark matter reactors could improve energy distribution, reduce waste, and support long-term space travel. His explanations were simple, clear, and careful. The council listened closely. The blue light speaker nodded. They said humanity's technology could help many species, but they also knew it could be misused. They asked Yun how humans planned to prevent corruption. Yun answered with quiet confidence. He said dark matter technology only worked safely under very strict conditions. One could copy the design, but not the precision. Only trained experts could control the energy streams. Without proper training, the system would shut down automatically. This explanation eased many concerns. The council then asked about the rogue attack. They wanted to know if humanity intended to pursue revenge or demand punishment. Jin shook his head. He said humanity only wanted transparency. They wanted the council to handle the investigation. Revenge was not useful. What mattered was preventing future attempts. The council seemed relieved. But before the meeting could end, the clicking-voiced representative, The one who had accused humanity earlier stood up. Their bodies shifted with agitation. They said humanity was too powerful. Even if humans promised peace, their warships were a threat simply by existing. They argued that humanity should be forced to deactivate their dark matter engines before joining the council. The room nearly erupted. Several members strongly disagreed. Others showed interest. Some looked confused. The speaker had to quiet the room. Jin stayed silent for a moment. Then he answered with calm strength. He said humanity would not disable its ships. They had the right to protect themselves. But he added that humans would never use their ships aggressively unless provoked. They believed in defense, not domination. He said something else too, something that made several members stop arguing. He explained that power used wisely was not dangerous. Power used recklessly was. Humanity had shown restraint even when attacked. That restraint mattered. The silver-marked representatives supported Jin's words. They pointed out that humans had disabled 7 rogue ships without firing a single weapon, without harming anyone. They said this proved humanity's discipline better than any speech. Slowly, the room began to calm. Finally, the speaker announced that the council would move toward a new decision. They said that humanity would be given temporary allied status. This was not full membership, but it was a step forward. A clear recognition of humanity's place among the stars. Su thanked them. Hannah looked relieved. Yun looked hopeful. Jin simply nodded. But the speaker added one more thing. They said many factions now wanted to meet with humanity, not to challenge them, but to form alliances. They wanted access to dark matter technology, to trade, and to research together. The galaxy was shifting. As the humans left the chamber, they felt the atmosphere change around them. Some aliens stepped aside respectfully. Others watched with curiosity. A few still showed fear, but fear was no longer the strongest emotion in the room. Interest was. Hana whispered that this was the turning point. Humanity was no longer a threat in the eyes of many. They were a potential partner. Su smiled softly, saying this was only the beginning. The coming days would be full of meetings, deals, and agreements. Jin looked ahead, feeling the steady hum of the station beneath his feet. The galaxy had taken its first step toward accepting humanity, but he knew acceptance was fragile. Every action from now on would matter. The balance had shifted, and humanity needed to guide it carefully. The quiet hum of the council station felt different now. Instead of fear and tension, there was a softer, calmer rhythm in the air. Representatives from many species walked through the halls, speaking openly, no longer hiding behind whispers. The attack from the rogue faction had shaken the council, but it had also forced them to look honestly at their own failures and at the strength and intentions of humanity. Jin stood near one of the wide observation windows, watching large ships drift in and out of the station. Some were heavy cargo transports. Others were sleek diplomatic vessels. A few of them, for the first time, flew with small banners showing human symbols. It was a sign of trust, a sign of new alliances forming. Hana walked up beside him, holding her tablet. She told Jin that several factions had requested private meetings for cooperation agreements. Some wanted help stabilizing their frontier colonies. Others wanted joint training missions to prepare against threats like piracy or border conflicts. Jin listened quietly, understanding that these requests were the first steps toward a new era. Yun entered the room carrying a stack of reports. He explained that his demonstrations of dark matter technology had drawn intense interest. Many species wanted to learn more, though Yun reminded them all that the most dangerous details would remain restricted. Still, he was hopeful. He believed careful cooperation could help everyone grow. A soft chime sounded, and Sue walked in. She looked tired but peaceful. She had spent most of the morning in diplomatic meetings, guiding conversations, answering questions, and building trust. She told the others that the council had finally agreed to hold a public ceremony. Humanity would be officially recognized as a major allied power. Jin nodded slowly. He knew the ceremony would be more than a symbolic gesture. It would signal to every system in the galaxy that humanity had earned respect, not by force, but by discipline and honesty. They walked together to the council chamber. The massive doors opened slowly, revealing a large crowd inside. Hundreds of representatives filled the floating platforms. The lights glowed brighter than usual, casting a warm tone across the chamber. As the humans entered, many heads turned toward them, not with fear, but with interest. The blue light speaker rose from their seat and welcomed humanity. Their voice was strong, echoing across the chamber. They explained how the recent events had shown the council many hard truths. They spoke about the dangers of corruption, the weakness of old systems, and the need for change. They said humanity had shown what strength looked like when used with care. The speaker then invited Jin to step forward. Jin walked to the center of the chamber. He felt every eye watching him, but he did not feel the pressure that had weighed on him before. He stood tall, calm, and focused. He spoke in simple, clear words. He explained that humanity had grown quickly because they had faced many challenges in their history. They had learned to use strength carefully and to value cooperation. He said humans came to the galaxy not to control it, but to help shape a better future. He talked about how the galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. He said no single species could thrive alone. Cooperation was the only path forward. When he finished, the chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the speaker announced the council's decision. Humanity would join the galaxy as a recognized allied power. They would have influence in council discussions, access to shared resources, and a role in maintaining peace. The chamber filled with applause. It was not loud or chaotic, but steady and respectful. Sue let out a small breath of relief. Henna smiled softly, and Yun looked proud but humble. Jin simply nodded, feeling the weight on his shoulders shift. It was not gone, but it had changed. It was no longer the weight of proving humanity's worth. It was now the weight of carrying new responsibility. After the ceremony, many representatives approached the human delegation. Some thanked them for their restraint during the rogue attack. Others invited them to future cooperative missions. A few simply wanted to speak with them, curious about human culture. One representative, small and gentle-looking, asked Sue if humanity would help train their young explorers. They said their people admired the discipline of the human crew. Sue agreed kindly, saying humanity would be honored to help. Another representative approached Yun, asking if they could study the energy flow diagrams again. Yun smiled and promised to share a safe version of the data. He warned them that dark matter was powerful and unpredictable, but he also encouraged them to explore new ideas. Hana spoke with several intelligence officers from different factions. They discussed new communication networks and information-sharing programs that could reduce misunderstandings across the galaxy. She felt hopeful. Many species wanted to work together now, not hide behind old walls. Later, when the crowd began to fade, Jin returned to the observation window. The stars outside seemed brighter. Ships glided past like slow-moving rivers of light. Sue joined him quietly. She said the council would move into a new phase now. Old factions would need to change. New leaders would rise. Some would resist. Some would welcome the shift. She said the galaxy had been quiet for too long, stuck in old habits. Jin understood. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would still be fear, conflict, and mistakes. But there would also be growth. He said softly that humanity's dark matter warships were never meant to be symbols of fear. They were symbols of progress, symbols of what could be achieved when a species pushed boundaries without losing its sense of Responsibility. Su nodded. Hana soon joined them, saying several factions had already planned a peacekeeping project and wanted human assistance. She believed humanity could help stabilize distant star systems that had struggled for decades. Jin agreed. A mission like that would show the galaxy that humans did not only talk about peace, they practiced it. Yun arrived last, carrying a new set of energy readings. He said the Obsidian Dawn had received a message from a frontier colony suffering from energy shortages. Their reactors were weak, and their grid was failing. Yun suggested sending a small dark matter team to help. Jin approved the idea immediately. It would be a good first step. As the team stood together, the lights of the station dimmed slightly. A gentle announcement played through the speakers, reminding everyone that new diplomatic programs would begin that evening. Su smiled. Hana looked hopeful. Yun looked ready for the next challenge. Jin placed a hand on the window and watched the stars. Humanity was no longer walking into the galaxy alone. They were stepping forward with allies, responsibilities, and a voice that would help shape the future. The dark matter warships had stunned the Council into silence once, but now they would help guide the galaxy into a new era. A calmer, stronger, and more united era, and humanity would be at its center.